You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage.
Hey. Woo-woo.
This is Red.
Hi, this is Timo.
Hey, this is Dre.
And this is a Down the Rabbit Hole episode. Oh my goodness, it's been so long.
It has been so long.
A minute.
Let me tell you, it's been since November 6th since we haven't done one. Yeah, so we've wanted to do this topic for a really long time, and I think we had had this one on schedule to record for like 2 other times or 3 other times, but like on the way the holidays were here, so whatever, we're back, we're doing it, and it's a really fun topic, y'all. You guys are gonna love it.
It is a fun topic. So just to let everybody know, we have our regular episodes that come out each week on Tuesdays, if we feel like recording, and then every other week, we do a Down the Rabbit Hole episode where we talk conspiracy theories and fun things like that. And it's usually a shorter episode. And this has been a while since we did this, but I like these. It's a topic that we all look into, we all talk about, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's fun because all 3 of us have the same topic. We all do our research, and then we can all just kind of like jump in, and it's just like a little, something different that we do twice a month. That's like for fun.
It's like a conspiracy theory brunch where we all just get real lubed and talk about one topic for 3 hours. That's what we do.
And Timo's drinking wine tonight, y'all. I'm drinking wine.
Ooh,
goodness.
Looks good.
Yeah, I poured me a big old glass.
I miss alcohol. I'm drinking water, and it tastes like water. Lame. Okay, so I shared this with the ladies.
Wait.
I had the craziest dream last night. It was insanity. I had a dream that we had this massive earthquake, and that it started up in Washington and it moved down to California, and the earth is being ripped up, houses are being ripped up, our family is fleeing. It was a terrifying dream. It felt so real, and I know that this happens to all of us, where we have a dream that kind of stays with us the rest of the day. It shook me to my core. It scared me so much, and I just had this feeling of we need to be prepared. And in my dream, there was a sense that this was going to be happening like January 13th, 14th. And I know that sounds really weird, but that was like in my dream, that was like information that we were getting. And so our family is working on making an earthquake plan. So that's always good to have in California. But then my daughter shared with me that she was looking at an astrologer. She does TikTok and Twitter, and how she just came out today saying there's earthquake energy January 19th to the 21st, and people should be expecting a lot of tension and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, coming up. So that scared me. And my daughter then looks at my birth chart, and she's like, oh, you have these 3 houses of psychic ability, which is really high for someone. So then the whole family was like freaking out and talking about how to get prepared for this earthquake and who was going to grab what dog. It was a whole thing. But it's always good to be prepared.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing that you guys did that.
No, it's
everybody needs to do that. So, including me.
I just have this anxiety. I have like this cloud of anxiety over me all day. It doesn't feel good, y'all. So if it does happen, my readings will be $100 an hour. I will post on website how to contact. You know, call me like Little Red. I'll tell you everything about your love life, what's coming up for you in 2021. Subscribe.
Red's Patreon.
It was just such a crazy intense day. So I really hate earthquakes. I don't want us to have an earthquake, but I'm probably right, you guys, for sure.
Yeah, you probably are. It's really
like
creepy.
100%.
Red, let me ask you, have you ever had like a actual premonition dream before where something you dreamt actually happened? Okay, so
Yes.
I get those all the time. Like I have premonition dreams all the time, or I'll have just random things that just pop into my head. And then I'm like, that was weird. And then forget about it. And then a few days later, something happens with that's involved. So let me tell you what happened. Our episode, today's Tuesday, we just, our newest Handcuffs and Sage episode just released today. And Red did, she's talking about Kurt Cobain, his suicide, and kind of like that kind of true crime, conspiracy theory, whatever. But one thing I didn't tell you last night when we were recording our episode was I had Kurt Cobain in my mind a couple days ago. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I had looked him up and I had realized when I looked him up, I looked him under Kurt with a C instead of Kurt with a K. And then when it came up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Duh, it's Kurt with a K. And I'm not sure exactly why. There was a reason why he had popped into my head and I started Googling him. But then I was realizing that after we recorded and I was editing, I'm like, holy shit, there it is. There's another premonition that I had. And it just was a random thing that, hey, Red did her subject on that. And that's what it was. But I've had quite a few premonition dreams that have come true. So
yeah, yikes. I definitely feel that is a big part of my life. That I have feelings and things like that, and things kind of come about in weird, odd ways. And my husband always says that I definitely do have a thing about me where I'm very lucky with certain things. And he's never met someone so lucky in certain ways. So I don't know. He's a cooler. He's definitely unlucky. He's balancing out my luck, I guess. But I definitely have had premonitions, things that come to me. It's usually a feeling. I know that Miss Amy's mom is definitely the same way.
Oh yeah.
And I would say like, yeah, way more than I am. But I definitely have those, you know, that Jiminy Cricket, that thing that will come to you, or you'll look into something again that you haven't thought of in forever. Something comes together. So I understand that. I really hope I'm wrong. Really.
Yeah, I really hope you're wrong too.
Because if I have to start my own psychic network, you guys, I won't have time for podcasting anymore. I'm sorry. I just won't. It's over. Okay?
Well, I'll just have to join you then.
All right, fine. New podcast.
The last premonition dream that I had, I think I told you guys that I had sent you in our group chat. Hey dudes, like this, because it was about somebody that I'm not really like, I don't really like very much, but I had to be very empathetic because it was a really bad dream. Half of it came true, half of it didn't come true. Which the part that didn't come true was good. I'm glad that didn't, but it really freaked me out when the other part was actually true. And I got an affirmative answer to my question. I was like, holy shit. So, and I haven't had one since. So I don't know. I'm probably gonna like have one tonight and then I'll say, fuck, here we go. We're having an earthquake, y'all.
Right.
Yeah, okay. This is also freaky. I forgot to tell you guys this. Oh my goodness. So the night before the night before my earthquake dream, my son and I had the same dream.
That is creepy.
Yeah. Odd. Okay,
that's
so
really weird.
Not weird. Yeah. And I would always say that he's very in tune to things that other people are not on the same wavelength. And The psychic in New Orleans was talking about his abilities.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, he's a
Oh, yeah.
Pisces.
Yes, he is a
Pisces are,
Pisces.
in tune with that kind of stuff.
Very
And
in
then, like
tune.
you've mentioned in the past, he's somewhere on the spectrum. So I believe that your energy, if it's being not directed in one direction, it's being directed to another direction. So, you never
And when he
know.
was younger, he
Yeah.
had
Oh my God, I have the chills
somebody
right
that
now.
he
It's so
talked
crazy.
about.
Yes.
He always talked about his friend Jim when he was little, things that Jim would tell him in the house. So that was always really freaky to us.
Mhm.
Because Jim was not paying rent. And so not cool, Jim. Okay, not cool. So he definitely has this ability.
What did you say about the Pisces? What does it have to do with premonition?
Pisces are like very
in tune.
Yeah, in tuned. Yeah, it's like psychic ability, like
vibrations, feelings.
Yeah, like one with the earth. You're so creative, like on like an artsy fartsy level too, but more of like but like us Pisces are really more in tune to like the otherworldly realm, I guess you could say.
So I asked because my aunt is a Pisces. She's my mom's youngest sister, and you can't hide anything from this woman. She knew, my mom had COVID recently, and she knew something was wrong. She just knew it, and she doesn't ever message me, ever. She was like messaging me, and I'm like, oh man, my mom did not let me say anything to her.
Right,
but it's weird. It's weird on a level that I can never understand. Like my mom, let's just say my mom broke her wrist. Suddenly, she will be having pain in her wrist, and my aunt will call my mom and say, "Did you hurt yourself? Is your hand hurting you?"
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. It's really strange, and it's like, ew, stop it.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's very interesting. I really do. So maybe there's something to it. We'll find out if the big one happens. In my dream, I will say this: the earthquake was like an 8.3. It was something like that.
Well, that's not that bad.
Yeah, it's fine, you guys. Like, don't even stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Why are we even talking about it, basically?
Yeah, I thought you were going to be like double digits, like 11 or 12 or something.
No, it was like an 8.3.
What was the 94 earthquake?
It was
6.6.
Yeah, that was devastating.
Are you sure? I thought it was more than that.
Nope, 6.6.
Oh, okay. Well,
let me look it up
F
really quick.
me then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, F you, Timo.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the last
Are y'all ready?
Yeah, are we ready? Buckle up. What was the last episode that we did? Do you guys remember? Was it the Hollow Earth, or did we do something?
It was
else?
Hollow Earth.
Yeah,
it was Hollow Earth. We talked about Agartha. We hit like all the points.
Okay,
all the points on Hollow Earth. Mm-hmm.
So we're actually talking about two subjects today, and these both stemmed from our conversations that we had through Hollow Earth. And one of the little side subjects that Dre actually brought up when we were talking about this was the green-skinned children, or the green children.
Yes.
And I was like, shit, yes, I've known about this for so many years. I've known about this, but I never really did a deep dive into it. And it was really cool to kind of learn like where it came from, like the story of it. And it's such an old story. We're talking about the 1100s, y'all. The 12th century was like when it was happened. And that
I had no idea about it.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
So this was a lot of fun to learn about.
Right. So 800 years ago. So this is when you talk about old school, like folklore or old school stories. Of course, we have to go back to Europe on that side of the earth, because that's where all that stuff comes from. So we're going to go to England. We're going to go to a village. It's called Suffolk Village. The little town's name is Woolpit, and it's in England. And like I said, this happened in the 12th century. And actually, two different very important people actually wrote about this. They accounted for it. They recorded it back in the day. So it was something that like if we saw like on I don't know. I don't want to say like CNN or the news, because a lot of that stuff is kind of exaggerated, maybe to the point, whatever. But it was almost to like that, where if we hear something on the news, 9 times out of 10, we're going to believe it's true because it's the news. So Ralph of Coggestall was one of the men that recorded this. And then another gentleman by the name of William of Nuremberg, he also recorded this. So these were 2 big wigs back in the 12th century that basically said, okay, this is the story. This is the legend of the green children. And I keep on wanting to say the green-eyed children because I did the black-eyed children back in the day.
Right.
But these are actually green children. So the legend goes that it was during harvest time. And I guess back then in the day, the people that worked in the fields, they were called reapers, which is kind of creepy. And they were working in the fields. And then all of a sudden they kind of looked over, and there's these 2 kids standing there. One was a boy, one was a girl. And they looked very strange. They had clothes on that they didn't really recognize. They were talking in some weird, strange language. And then the super bizarre thing is they had green skin, which they were like, what the fuck? Little side note, where they were working was near these ditches, and they were called wolf pits. And in the old English dictionary, it's wolf, WULF, and then pit, PYTT, which stands for wolf pit. So they are these ditches that they dug to, I guess, catch wolves. But the town's name now is Woolpit. So that came from wolf pit. So that's how they got their name. And they took the children to the village because they're like, we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do with these weird children. And they were actually accepted into the household of Sir Richard Decane. And his household took them in. And obviously these kids were super afraid. They were freaking out, and they did not eat. And you could tell they were freaking starving. But they had no idea, like they tried to feed them, and these kids were just not having it. They were not eating. They were not drinking. They were just like, they were freaked out because they're like, these kids are going to fucking starve to death because they're not eating.
So what I found here, Timo, is that you're right, that they weren't eating. And the only thing that they could make them eat are broad beans. So beans. And we'll get into why that makes sense.
Right. So they finally brought them these beans, and they're like, their eyes got big, and they're like, yeah. And so these look familiar to them, and they started eating them. So like Red said, they're broad beans, and they're known as fava beans to us today. So
the beans.
Fava beans with just like Chianti.
And a nice Chianti.
So I don't know. I've never had fava beans before, so I have no idea but I'm a weirdo. I like lima beans. So if they're anything like lima beans, I'm all for it.
They actually are exactly like lima beans.
Are they? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so they're these little flat green beans. So cool. So they basically survived on the beans. That's all they ate until they slowly started kind of like getting to like bread. So basically they lived off fava beans and bread. But unfortunately, the boy became very, very ill, and he died.
Yes.
We don't really know too much about like why he died, what happened when he died, how the girl reacted to him dying. But it was good news for the little girl. She thrived. She, started getting healthier. She
was baptized.
Right.
She was baptized.
That was a big deal too. Yeah, because she was baptized. And once she started eating like normal foods and everything, and her skin kind of changed. The green went away, and she learned to speak English, and she grew into this beautiful young woman. And she, at that point, she was able to tell the story of how she got there, how the boy and her got there. She said that they came from a subterranean land that was called Saint Martin.
Mhm.
And it was land that had no sun but twilight. So basically you're looking at like daytime but no sun. So it's like that shady kind of overcasty, dark
All the time.
all
Mhm.
the time, no
Like
sunlight.
earthquake weather.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
I have to, this is a special report. This has just come through.
Okay.
Did you guys see my eyes get real wide for a second?
Yes.
Because my daughter just texted me and it came through and she said there's a new moon January 13th at 5 a.m. So she's like, basically, we're screwed.
Oh,
Earthquake
hell no.
time. Okay, so write that
Mm-mm.
down.
I'm actually
All right, go ahead.
that magical
It's
planner
awful.
thing that I have that I showed you guys.
Yeah.
It talks a lot about like the moon cycles and the phases and all that, and when to do something and when not to do something. So I'm going to look into that for like the 13th, 14th, and then the 19th through the 21st. I'll let you know. I'll look in that.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and then all the people that lived in this land were green. They were all green.
Right.
And then across the river of their land, there was far off into the distance was a shiny, luminous land that was unknown to them. They didn't know anything about this land. So they're not quite sure of how they came to be in Woolpit, but they said that they were tending to their father's flock and they found a cave. They wanted to go and investigate this cave. Why not? That's what kids do, right? So when they went into this cave, they started hearing bells ringing, and it happened to be what we've come now to find out, that it was the bells of St. Edmund's, which is, I believe, a church in Woolpit. And when they came out on the other side, following the bells, they came into Woolpit, England. And the sunlight was so bright that their eyes hurt and they were frightened. And the next thing they knew is these reapers were coming up to them, these weird people, trying to talk to them in a different language. And then they brought them to this home. Okay, so that's the story that she tells about how they came about. And it's pretty wild, y'all. If you think about it, they're like,
It is.
We came from this underground place.
Right.
Like,
that's
what?
Exactly what she's saying. Like,
Yeah.
her and her
Yeah.
brother
Like, what the
were
fuck?
completely entranced in this sound, followed it, and all of a sudden they're in a completely different world. Completely different.
Dude.
And then her brother ends up dying, which is awful. Right.
Right.
So imagine hearing this story. Imagine having someone try to explain where they came from, why they were green, right?
I know.
Not having the language. It really
trying to
is
feed
insane.
you all this weird shit.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I could live on bread, but not beans.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's really cool though is because she grew up to be so beautiful, she ended up actually just living a normal life in England. She got married. The husband was the ambassador of Henry II. And she took the name Agnes Bure. So that was her English name. And I guess she lived on to live just a normal, happy life.
She had a child.
Okay, she had a child. Right, exactly. So, there's so many different theories of where these kids actually came from. And there's so many. And this is where like the conspiracy theory side comes from it. I love them all. I can go for them all. First of all, the subterranean land with green people, that's awesome. That could be the hollow earth, y'all. We were talking about that. And there's always an opening somewhere where you can come up into our world. So, hey, I totally believe that could be exactly what happened. But one of the most scientific ones that they came up with was that these poor children were being poisoned by arsenic.
Yes.
And they were just left to die in the forest, and maybe out of the confusion of what happened and maybe hallucinating and whatever. This is what her mind made up of whatever. So that's, I guess,
the brother then died of arsenic poisoning, right? So that's what they're thinking might have happened. And arsenic does cause that greenish tint in your skin, which is so sad, but that is
so weird. Yeah,
it is
so
weird.
Crazy.
It is a weird, but that can tip you off that someone's been poisoned with arsenic. And then I guess another thing was that back then, I guess you could get green skin from malnourishment. which is really sad.
It's called hypochromatic anemia, which is chlorosis, or how do you pronounce that, Dre?
Sclerosis?
No, it's CH.
Sclerosis.
Chlorosis. Okay. So this basically affects the color of the skin, because it affects the red blood cells because you have a very poor diet. So basically it makes your skin appear to be green. So that would make sense too. Back in those days, you know, they were already looking like they were starving. So obviously they probably weren't eating normally and whatever. So that totally makes sense. And then as soon as she started eating healthy, her skin turned normal. So that makes a lot of sense, you know. So in the area, they thought that maybe they also might be Flemish orphans. So the Flemish or Flemings were West Germanic, like German ethnic group, and it was native to Flanders, which is modern day Belgium to us. So these people were basically persecuted by Henry II, and they were forced to flee for their lives, basically. So they're thinking that maybe these two were orphans. They fled to the forest, deep in the forest, to get away from being executed by Henry II, which then would make sense. They were way in the dark forest, which would make them seem like they were in the twilight with no sunlight, and would make sense.
They didn't speak the language,
while they had different clothes. And then maybe going back to like the malnutrition and all that was maybe why their skin was green. And then they're thinking that maybe there was also some type of underground mine in that area that they fled to as well. And maybe that's what she was thinking of, like, oh, we went into a cave and then we came out the other end, and that was that. So that makes perfect sense as well, you know. I mean, if you're fucking gonna get executed by the king, you're gonna fucking get out of there and do what you need to do. So unfortunately that was sad, but they're saying that could have been then. And then this is my favorite. They're saying that they are related to fairies, or they were actual fairies themselves.
Oh, I didn't hear this one.
Yeah, I love that so much. You know, True Blood fans, they have the fae and they look like people, you know, walking around. So come on, it could be, you know, we never know. And then they say that maybe the cave was a portal into another world, or like we talked earlier, a portal into the hollow earth. So that could be possible. And then in I'm going to jump around. This one is a little bit more interesting than the next one I had in my notes. But in 1996, there was an article written by an astronomer. His name is Duncan Luna. And he published an article in Analog magazine that said the green children were some type of time travelers that were accidentally transported to Woolpit, England by a matter transmitter malfunction. What do we all think about that one?
Yeah, that's definitely what happened.
So
for sure. I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
I love all the different ideas. It's so creative. All the things that could have happened in this situation.
And then this is the one that Red probably agrees the most about. Robert Burton wrote a book in 1621. It was called The Anatomy of Melancholy, and it was about children that fell from heaven, and it was basically a book about aliens. So they probably think that these two little green children came down from, you know, somewhere up there, which, hey, I believe it.
So I absolutely think it's an alien situation. I feel bad for you Hollow Earth people. You're so lame. Okay. It's aliens. All right. So I was so tripped out because I saw some story come up, I don't know, on my Facebook newsfeed that there's like 36 different alien lives that we know about. Yeah. So obviously it's aliens, you guys. Come on.
It's aliens, of course. Yeah, I mean, today the green children are still remembered in Woolpit. There's like this little like wrought iron sign. I'm going to post it on the site. It's really cool looking. And then the church in the town, their altar cloth depicts pictures of the green-eyed children, or green-eyed children, the green-skinned children as well. So that's really fun. And then
it's like their claim to fame.
Their claim to fame, right? And then English blue bloods. Do you know what that is? Because I don't.
Blue bloods.
I don't know who English blue bloods are, but
I have no idea.
They are believed to be descendants of Agnes Beret, which they are carrying on the green skin bloodline. So there you go. The green children.
We live in a day and age where we can do, 23andMe and some Ancestry.com.
Let's get it done.
You guys, let's just figure this out for them and find out who the blue bloods are.
Yeah.
It's a fun story. So what do you think happened here, Timo? What do you think it is?
Like I said, I hope that they were fairies. I hope they're fairies. They left their bad fairy parents. Yeah, they left their bad fairy parents, and they wanted to be real people. So they made their way into the lands of the humans, and unfortunately it didn't go as planned for the boy, but the girl got her way. So hey.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, Dre, what do you think, girl?
I think I like the chlorosis story. And that sounds really feasible, or like malnutrition, and like you said, like maybe they were in a cave. That makes more sense.
Yeah,
that's the most
definitely
scientific, logical explanation.
And that's definitely the one I'm going to go with. I think these children probably were Flemish. They probably didn't have their parents. They probably were in the forest for a long period of time and were sick. And unfortunately, I think maybe it was just too late for the brother, which is really sad. But at least she was able to have someone who cared for her. She was able to become healthy and go on and live her own life. I think that's what happened here. Okay. That makes the most sense.
I think it's amazing that she went on to marry and have children, and they're able. I'm sure they would be able to track her bloodline. They have to do
800 years.
Why not?
I demand it.
800 years.
Have you been on Ancestry.com? It goes back forever.
Really? No, I'm afraid to jump into that.
Well, who did she marry? She married. Yeah.
She married
to the king. Yeah, so an
archdeacon, Richard Beret.
Yeah.
So they really did keep track of that,
Right.
It's not like she was just a nobody.
Right.
So I did look up blue blood, and it means of noble birth.
Oh,
yeah.
So I know
awesome.
Blue blood. You should have said so. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. That's awesome. Cool. Thanks, Dre.
Yeah.
All right.
Killing it.
So we're moving on to our next subject, which we also discussed when we were talking about Hollow Earth, and that is the missing or the lost Incan treasure.
Yeah.
This story is bananas, y'all. So we're going to South America, to Peru, and this happened to like 500 years ago. The Incan ruled the world. No, they ruled Peru.
1532. Yes.
And
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago. And they were known as the people of the sun. So basically the sun was their god, and they did everything to basically worship the sun. Love it. You guys
want me to kind of
you want to fill in some of the blanks? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, here we go, y'all. Okay. In 1532, Francisco Pizarro founded the town of San Miguel de Puera and began the conquest of the Inca Empire. He later captured the Inca king Atahualpa at Cajamarca. Atahualpa, seeing that the Spaniards cherished gold above all, promised to fill a room with gold and another equally large with silver in exchange for his freedom. Pizarro agreed to do this, although he had no intention to ever let Arohupe leave. Before the room could be filled with gold, Pizarro's distrust of Atahualpa and his influence over the many remaining Inca warriors caused him to have the Inca garroted on July 26, 1533. The legend holds that the Inca general Rumahi was on his way to Cajamarca with an enormous amount of worked gold for the ransom when he learned that Atahualpa had been murdered. Accounts of the amount of gold involved varies in different versions of the legend, but all agree that on the news of Atahualpa's death, he sent the porters east to areas that are to the present day uninhabited, and later returned to Quito and hauled more treasures, including tiles of the Temple of the Sun and possessions of the Nustas. These are temple dancers. The treasure is assumed to have been hidden in a cave or dumped in a lake. I'm going to screw up this poor name. Ruminahua continued fighting against the Spanish, and though he was eventually captured and tortured, he never revealed the location of the treasure. The treasure, they say, was in the volcano as an act of freedom. That's the only way they could survive what was coming for their people. So people are saying he just said, this is it. Throw it in a volcano. Bye. Craziness.
Oh, yeah. Which
crazy.
You guys remember that when we talked about Hollow Earth, we touched on this a little bit, where Pizarro he only brought 160 men. And so this is like an all-time confusing ass story because, you know, there were thousands of Incans and 160 men just like wiped this whole civilization out. Completely.
Went crazy.
Yeah, insane. They said that they, you know, the Incans didn't treasure the gold the way that the Spaniards did. They would paint their walls with it, and like as jokes, even when the Spaniards were there, the Spaniards were feeding their horses gold in the troughs, in the horse troughs. Wow. They would just laugh about it. And so when they came and they were doing all these horrible things, the wife of the, what is his name? You just said it and I can't repeat it.
Pizarro?
But not Pizarro. The Incan.
Atahualpa or something.
Atahualpa.
Yeah. So she had a vision. Yeah, she had a vision that he was going to kill him no matter what. And
she had that
in this vision. She went ahead and she had the feeling, and she knew it was going to happen. So she managed to gather the forces. Now the queens, although didn't have a lot of say, they still carried a lot of magic, mystical energies, and so they were regarded in this high regard. So when she said, I had this vision, they're going to kill him, I need you to hide the gold, because that's what they want, even though it didn't matter to them. So you know, they went ahead and hid it. And so there's a story that goes, they had seen these caves, right? And these caves go on for like miles and miles and miles. Yeah. So the Spaniards were like, no, we have to find this gold. There's millions of dollars worth of gold. So they set out on a journey to go find the gold, you know, and they walked for a whole week. And then when they got to this point in the cave, they walked for 7 days. And when they got to this point in the cave, seven like days later, there was like 8 different caverns to go through. And so they said, all right, well, we're going to take 4. And then they walked for 2 more days.
So
and then
insane.
We're like, holy shit, we cannot find wherever this was. And there's a legend that says that you could be standing 1 foot away from this treasure and not know it. Wow. And so what the Incans would do is, they didn't create the sculptures that were there, that were part of their treasure. There's like a legend that says that it was like aliens that did it. That they came upon this area and that it was already there. Nice. Right? So then it's so insane. So what they did was they just recreated more sculptures on their gods, and then they put it into like a cavern, and then they sealed it shut. So you would never find it. You could walk right past this doorway that was like sealed shut and never ever know that there was like a whole statue made of gold in there. So
I love it. Let's
we will never know.
It.
Yeah.
No, we will find it. You guys, surprise, I have booked the tickets. We're going
to Peru.
Hello. Oh my gosh. That would be awesome. But you guys, I was just kidding. I didn't actually buy us tickets.
I know.
But you know, that makes sense because today it's still never been found. It's still out there somewhere in the Andes, in the jungle, in the lake, in the volcano. Who knows where the hell? I love the fact that it could be sitting at the bottom of a lake somewhere. That's just so wild to me.
It could be anywhere. And that aliens left those structures. And that the Incan were like, oh, same seas. We're gonna do some too.
Let's do this too. Do you guys know what happened to the Incan treasure that became what the Spaniards took from them? Did you guys look into that?
I know they did.
They were saying that it could have possibly been thrown in the volcano, right? Who knows? We don't know.
No, I think what she meant was what the Spanish were actually able to take from them, right? That they took home.
Oh, right. Yes, yes. Because they did.
I read that they did take 700 sheets of gold that weighed 4.5 pounds each. So if you figure how much, they were just basically these like gold, like bars, but gold sheets. And they did see the disc of the golden sun, and by the time they went back to get it, it was gone. So that would be like the big prize to find, not only the treasure, but to find that golden disc sun. But do you have a really cool story about that, Dre, where they were they cursed or something? That'd be fun.
I think that it was cursed. I mean, I don't see any other way around this. I know that Pizarro's men, they took home a lot of the gold to the Spanish, and that there's like a story about how they had said like somebody was coming to take their gold, and then they had told like an ally, hey, we need you to take this, like the captain of a ship, take this gold with you and go hide it. Just go drive around, go around the ocean for us on your ship.
Cars too.
Nice. No, so like the captain of the ship was supposed to do this for Pizarro's army. For the Spaniards, was supposed to go hide the gold for some time out in the ocean, come back to him and give it back. Well, he freaking took all of it. He killed all his men that were on the ship, and he took off. And he went to go hide the gold. They don't know what happened to it. They don't know if he dumped it in the ocean. They're thinking maybe he buried it on some island somewhere. And then I read this really crazy fact that when there's like a treasure like this, you know how there's always like the X marks the spot and like somebody go find the gold. There's been like only one instance where somebody actually buried treasure in like all of time. They don't bury treasure and like come back for it. They only did it one time. They buried the treasure. They came back. They like unearthed it, and then they got found anyway. But there's never been a time where people actually bury treasure.
Huh?
Interesting.
Like pirates or whatever.
Are you kidding? There's
I swear.
no buried.
It happened in the Goonies. It was on the Goonies. Come on.
See, Dre, you were wrong. Goonies was right.
Yeah,
that's a trip. So they wouldn't bury it. They would just hide it then. Different locations. We have no idea where all the treasure is.
We love it. That's like such a great.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, there's so many different little documentaries and stuff. There's this one that I saw. It was so fucking awesome, you guys. Leonard Nimoy hosts it. You know who Leonard Nimoy is? He is Spock from Star Trek, and it was done like in like the 70s, and he fully has like the tight leather jacket with like the full on, like pointy collar, and he narrates the whole thing, and it's so great. And in it they talk about Bingham, Hiram Bingham. He was the first well-known explorer that set out in the early 1900s. I think it was like 1910. He went out with a crew to look for this lost treasure, and he was the one that actually discovered Machu Picchu. 1 year into the expedition, he thought that he had found the lost golden city, but it wasn't. It was Machu Picchu. And then 60 years later, Edmundo Gion, who was a professor and he was like a well-known historian in Incan history, he went out and explored, and he actually filmed the whole thing. So part of this documentary actually shows his expedition with a whole crew of guys, and they found Villa Cabamba, which was another Incan city that was lost, that they knew that wasn't the lost city of the lost golden city, but he uncovered Villa Cabamba. And I love that because all that was on camera, and you could basically see his whole expedition, old school with Spock narrating it for you. I loved it. I thought it was
and
so
there
great.
were people inhabiting those areas, or
no,
those
it was
locations?
totally covered in jungle, and they had machetes and they were like basically cutting into it, and they finally just unearthed it, and he was able to kind of map out what it would have looked like in before the jungle like overtook it. It's a really good, it reminded me when we were in high school and they rolled in the TV and the VCR and you had to watch an hour long video. It kind of reminded me of that. Because it's so old school, it's like grainy and jumpy.
Those were the
and
best
whatever.
days.
But it was so great. Check it out. It's on it's on YouTube. You can check it out. It's so great. Leonard Nimoy is the best, man. I mean, you never think that this dude would be like narrating some like National Geographic expedition. Yeah, it's so great. Yeah. So
I did see that one.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of like more modern day documentaries, like one on Discovery Channel where they go out like now in like modern times, and they kind of go out there and kind of look for it. They never find it, but it's fun. It's a fun little thing to learn about, like the Peruvian culture and how people live today, and it's just it's fun. I love it. Yeah.
It is very interesting. I love it too. I would like to say that aliens discovered Machu Picchu. So let's keep it real.
They built it.
Okay, they helped.
There was a really good, I got a lot of my information from a podcast. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but the guy that does the podcast, his name is Jack Allen, and he's like super nerd. He's the kind of guy that you want to ask, hey, can you go like get information on this topic? And he is gonna like thoroughly give every single detail. He actually was the only one that I was able to find that information about Hollow Earth, and like in the wife having the vision and such. He even mentioned a part where the Pizarro had portrayed himself. They came in like all of their armor and everything, and it was like shiny. And the Incans thought when they saw them, well, here are these like super tall, shiny men. And they kind of resembled what they would envision a god to be. Oh, man. So when they first got there, this is how they're saying that, it was like 80,000 Incan people were overtaken by 160. That is the figure. And so when you think like, well, they thought 160 gods came to visit them, that makes so much more sense. So if they wanted anything, sure, give it to them, right? And the whole idea behind Pizarro killing the king was, they thought that he was a god. So when Pizarro introduced Catholicism to the king, he was like, oh, you have a god? If you have a god, he must be holier than all the gods because you guys are gods, right? And he said, I want to meet this god. And he said, okay, cool, here. And he hands him a Bible. And so the Incan king puts the Bible to his head and he's like, nothing. And
it's broken.
It's broken. So he tosses the Bible on the floor.
I did the exact same thing when I was 18 years old. This is crazy.
And so, then Pizarro's pissed off at him and it's like, well, you just desecrated our Bible. Now you're going to die.
Wow.
And that's how this all happened.
Dang.
So
That's
it
a
makes so much
trick.
more sense now.
Find out what that podcast name is so we can give a shout out. You know, anyone who takes the time to do a really good job, we should always give props. So what's his name? Jack Allen?
Jack Allen. Yeah, I think I can find it.
Very cool, man. Yeah, look it up. Like a lady.
I think I might have listened to that same podcast because there's very few podcasts out there that talk about the lost Incan. So
yeah,
I think I might have
so
listened.
it's called Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence.
Oh, that's cool. Conspiracy or just a coincidence. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, that's
check
awesome.
it out. Let me write it. Conspiracy or just a coincidence. Conspiracy always. That's what I say. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. I really like this story. I liked the green kids. I liked the Incan treasure. This was a fun one.
It was fun.
Okay, do you guys remember Widdle of the Week? Because that was 5 years ago when we did the last one.
Sure was.
Dre is so professional. She knows it.
I looked it up before we started.
And I know we got a lot of responses back where they're like, I don't know, you stumped me. Even Hilda.
Oh, no. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Nobody answered it on the tube?
No.
Huh.
Because they're all sticking with our promise of not Googling the answer.
You can't Google it.
Yeah.
Right. But that was 5 years ago, so they might have Googled
right.
But
they don't even remember what the question was anymore.
I don't remember what it was.
Either.
Okay, so let's remind everyone. Okay.
All right. You'll find me on a peak. I am sometimes small and sometimes big, sometimes pointy. What am I?
Okay, what was the first? You'll find me on a what?
On a peak.
Oh, a peak.
Like a peak.
Sometimes. Say it again one more time.
I am sometimes small and sometimes big, sometimes pointy. What am I?
I don't know. Is it a clock or a compass? No.
Is it a glacier? I don't know.
So you know how we always have an answer that's not dirty?
Yes. No.
So this one's more of a dirty answer.
Oh,
really? That's why you can't get it.
That's why we didn't guess, because we thought it was a clean one.
I know. It's so great.
Okay. What's the answer?
It's a nipple.
Oh, it's a nipple.
Oh,
that's a good one.
That's cute.
How did we not get the nipple one, man?
Yeah. Sometimes big, sometimes pointy.
Oh, good job, Dre. Okay, so
put your head back in the gutter.
Never. I would never, ever have my head in the gutter. So we have a new Widdle of the Week.
I'm just kidding. All right. I got a new one. I have a new one for you.
Okay, I'm going to write it down.
All right. I am long and hard, and most people will happily spend their wages on me. After having me, most people feel a huge feeling of relief.
Okay, say it one more time.
Okay. I am long and hard, and most people will happily spend their wages on me. After having me, most people feel a huge feeling of relief.
Ooh, this is a goodie. Okay, so these are the rules. No Googling. That's the rules. Googling. Also, please message us all your answers, and we'll give a shout out. If you get it right, Hilda is basically almost always right, or her hubby, right?
Yeah.
We love hearing from Hilda. Naomi, what's the answer? Let us know. Hit us up. Let us know. We'll give shout outs. I love Widdle of the Week.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun. All right. So by the time we do our next Down the Rabbit Hole episode, we might have had an earthquake. We'll let you know. Follow up. We'll follow up on that. Okay. But I love Down the Rabbit Hole. I love that we all get to look into something together and kind of take that ride.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really fun. I love
Yay.
it. Yeah, because we can just like go
Yeah, it's
off
so
of
much
each
fun.
other's, you
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, I love it. It's so much fun.
I do. I love it. You guys hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. You can always email us at handcuffsandsage@gmail.com. And we have a website, hopefully, that will be filled with amazing adventures in 2021. And that is handcuffsandsagepodcast.com. Can you guys think of anything else?
Patreon.
Hit us up on Patreon. Support your favorite gals. You guys can be badasses. There's different levels. So depending on the level you choose, you get fun swag and all that goodness. You know, special things just for you.
Yeah, and
any
it's not
other-
as like daunting as someone might think. It's give us $1, give us $5, whatever you feel. You know, it's not like we're asking for buku bucks right now. We're just asking for a little bit of support. Goes a long way.
Yes, I spend like lots of dollars on coffee all the time, and coffee is not entertaining.
And your legal pads, legal pads and pens.
You guys,
Right.
my legal pads and pens cost me so much money every month for this podcast.
Yeah.
We need your dollar donations. So cue the sad music.
Without eyes.
Check out our Patreon page. Support your favorite ladies. Ooh, are you ready?
We're ready.
Just like you, we have questions. I want the answers.
Give it to me.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.
See ya. Bye.
See you later.
Love ya.
Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Dre in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles. Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.